So, welcome to this session on muscles of the forearm. So, we are going to discuss this compartment today, muscles of the forearm. Okay, in this compartment, now this is the medial side and this is the lateral side. In this compartment, there are 5 superficial muscles. There are 5 superficial muscles, and we show them by all of them. They take origin from the common flexor origin, which is on the medial epicondyle. They take origin from the common flexor origin, which is on the medial epicondyle. And these 5 muscles are indicated by putting our 5 fingers like this. Putting our 5 fingers like this. Okay. So this thumb indicates the muscle which is running, crossing, taking origin from the humerus, crossing the ulna and getting inserted on the radius. So thumb indicates a muscle called as pronator teres. Pronator teres. So when this muscle contracts, it will cause pronation. It takes origin from here, goes inserted here. When it contracts, it causes pronation. Pronator teres. The next finger is flexor carpi radialis. As the name suggests, flexor carpi radialis. It will go in and get inserted on the second and third metacarpal bone. Now, there are metacarpal bones in the hand, so it will get inserted here. So when this flexor carpi radialis contracts, it will cause flexion. Because it is on the lateral side, it will also cause abduction. So flexion and abduction are the 2 actions. The first muscle is pronator teres, second muscle is flexor carpi radialis. The third muscle is palmaris longus. Palmaris longus goes and gets inserted here at this part near the palmar, in the palmar area, and it's a kind of a vestigial muscle, causes some flexion at the wrist. But the next muscle is flexor digitorum superficialis. So pronator teres, flexor carpi radialis, palmaris longus, and the ring finger indicates flexor digitorum superficialis. This flexor digitorum superficialis, when it comes here, it splits into 4 tendons. It splits into 4 tendons, and these 4 tendons get attached to the middle phalanx. They get attached to the middle phalanx of the 4 fingers, except for the thumb. They get it, and their attachment is not like this. Each one gets attached, each one gets split and gets attached like this. Okay, on the sides of the middle phalanx of the finger. So flexor digitorum superficialis, when it has 4 tendons, and these 4 tendons get attached to the middle phalanx, of the medial 4 fingers, and it actually, near its attachment, it splits and gets attached to the splits into 2 parts, and 2 parts gets attached to the either side of the middle phalanx. Okay, flexor digitorum superficialis. And the last one, which is on the ulnar side, this muscle, flexor carpi ulnaris. Flexor carpi ulnaris. It gets inserted on the pisiform bone. Its action will be flexion of the wrist joint again, and also adduction of the wrist joint. The flexor carpi radialis, which gets inserted on this side, will also cause flexion but abduction. Flexor carpi ulnaris, which gets it's on the medial side, it will also cause flexion but adduction. Okay, so these are the 5 superficial muscles. I'll repeat again: pronator teres, flexor carpi radialis, palmaris longus, flexor digitorum superficialis, and flexor carpi ulnaris. Okay, these are the 5 muscles, 5 superficial muscles of the flexor compartment of the anterior compartment of the forearm. Below this, there are 3 muscles. Below this, there are 3 muscles. They are the 3 deep muscles. Okay, 3 deep muscles. So 5 superficial muscles and 3 deep muscles in this area. The deep muscle on the radial side is flexor pollicis longus. So it will take origin from the majority part of the radius, and it will get inserted on the distal phalanx of the thumb. So its action will be flexion of the thumb. It's also action will be flexion on the wrist. Okay, and second will be flexor digitorum profundus. A flexor digitorum profundus, like superficialis, will again split into 4, and it will get inserted on the distal phalanx like this. So flexor digitorum superficialis was getting inserted on middle phalanx. So therefore it will cause flexion of the proximal interphalangeal joint. But flexor digitorum profundus gets inserted on the distal phalanx, not the middle phalanx. It gets inserted on the distal phalanx. So it will cause flexion at the distal interphalangeal joint. This will be the exclusive action. It will also cause flexion of proximal joint. It will also cause flexion of metacarpophalangeal joint, also cause flexion of wrist joint also. So superficialis will cause flexion at proximal interphalangeal joint, metacarpophalangeal joint, and wrist. The flexor digitorum profundus will cause flexion at distal interphalangeal joints, proximal interphalangeal joint. So whichever joint they cause the action. Metacarpophalangeal joint and wrist joint also. Okay. But now here you have to understand, we said the superficialis, whenever it gets attached, it splits and get attached to the either side of the distal phalanx. And the profundus tendon passes in between them like this and gets inserted on the distal phalanx. So the arrangement is somewhat like this. These are the these two fingers are showing the split parts of the superficialis tendon, which get attached like this on the either side of the middle phalanx, and the profundus tendon passes in between and gets attached to the distal phalanx. It gets attached to the distal phalanx. Okay, so that is flexor digitorum profundus. And the third deep muscle is pronator quadratus, which just runs like this from the ulna to the radius. So it also, when it contracts, it will pull the radius and cause pronation. It runs like this from ulna to radius. When it contracts, it will cause pronation. Pronator teres runs like this. It will also cause pronation. Pronator quadratus will also cause pronation. So the three deep muscles are flexor pollicis longus. Pollicis refers to the thumb. Flexor pollicis longus. It will cause flexion of thumb, and of course the flexion of wrist also, because it is crossing the wrist joint. Flexor digitorum profundus. It will get inserted on the distal phalanx. The tendon splits into four and gets inserted on the distal phalanx. And the pronator quadratus, which runs from ulna to radius, it also pulls the radius to cause pronation. Now, because we will be studying the nerve of this area, which is median nerve. This median nerve is also called as laborers nerve, because laborers, whatever action they are doing, these muscles get exercised. Normally, our hand, this portion is very it's not so well built. Biceps maybe a little bit, but this is not, because we don't do hard work labor. But laborers, they will have huge muscles. These forearm muscles will be, especially whatever work they're doing, because these muscles are continuously moving. They're taking origin from the common flexor origin. Of course, the flexor pollicis longus is from radius, and profundus takes origin from the ulna, flexor digitorum profundus. Superficialis also has some additional heads from the ulna, from the radius. Pronator teres has one head from the humerus and another is from the ulna. It has two heads. So some of these muscles do have two heads. Okay. With that, the nerve of this compartment is median nerve, and therefore called as laborers nerve. This median nerve enters the hand below the flexor retinaculum. Here there will be a retinaculum like this, like my two fingers, and all the tendons passing through the hand, they have to pass below in this gap. The retinaculum runs like this, like my two fingers, and all the tendons pass below it. Otherwise, the tendons will not be able to act properly if they don't have a proper fitting here, like this. And the median nerve also passes through this tunnel of the flexor retinaculum, which is called as carpal tunnel, because here are carpal bones. All of you must have studied the scaphoid, lunate, triquetral, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, okay, capitate, hamate. So these two lines of carpal bones are there. So this tunnel is called as carpal tunnel, and median nerve also passes through this carpal tunnel and enters the hand. In the hand, there are 20 muscles. 5 muscles here, thenar, 5 hypothenar, 5 palmar interossei, 5 dorsal interossei, and sorry, I'm so sorry. The 4 thin muscles on thenar eminence, 4 muscles on hypothenar eminence, 4 palmar interossei, 4 dorsal interossei, and 4 lumbricals. Since we are studying the median nerve, it doesn't supply the palmar interossei, it doesn't supply the dorsal interossei, it doesn't supply the muscles of the hypothenar eminence, but it supplies the muscles of the thenar eminence. Okay, so we need to know the muscles of the thenar eminence because we are going to study this particular nerve called as median nerve today. And muscles of the thenar eminence are the abductor pollicis brevis, because there is abductor pollicis longus also, there is abductor pollicis brevis. Then there is a muscle called adductor pollicis. Now here we are not using the word brevis because adductor pollicis only, there is no longus. So then there is flexor pollicis brevis. We have already studied flexor pollicis longus just now. Flexor pollicis longus takes origin from the radius and gets inserted on the distal phalanx. Okay, so then there is a small muscle in this thenar eminence called flexor. So it will take origin from here only and gets inserted. So flexor pollicis brevis. Flexor pollicis brevis. And there is one more muscle called as opponens pollicis. Opponens pollicis. Opponens pollicis. Okay, which will cause this action, which is called as opposition. When thumb touches the other fingers, this action is called as opposition. So 4 muscles are. We studied the tendon of flexor digitorum profundus, how it comes here and splits into 4. On this profundus tendon, which is getting attached to the distal phalanx, there are small muscles, 4 muscles, which are worm-like, so called as lumbricals. They are called as lumbricals. Okay, so these are numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4. On these 4 tendons, we will find lumbricals. Okay, they are named as 1, 2, 3, 4 as per starting from the thumb side. Okay, so there are 4 lumbricals, out of which 2 lumbricals will be supplied by the median now, and therefore I gave you an idea. Of the 20 muscles of the hand, only 4.5 muscles are supplied by the median now, and most of them are the muscles of the thenar eminence, abductor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis, and the deep head of the flexor pollicis, superficial head of flexor pollicis brevis, and lumbrical 1 and lumbrical 2. Okay, with that we'll start studying the median nerve.